Shocking truth. How Lucifer went from heaven's favorite to the darkest prince at 3 a.m. In the cursed hour of 3 a.m., darkness dripped from the skies, and a silent scream echoed through the void, piercing the shroud of night. The air grew heavy with the scent of ash and brimstone, each breath thick and suffocating. This was the hour when truth twisted its face and the line between heaven and hell blurred. They say if you listen closely, you can hear the whispers of old souls and of one soul specifically, who once shone the brightest of all. Lucifer, the most radiant star of heaven, once danced among the clouds. His laughter rang like silver bells, captivating all who beheld him. But on this fateful night, he stood in shadows, his wings clipped, yet still shimmering with an otherworldly glow. How did this brilliant being, loved by all, plunge into the abyss? The questions gnawed at the edges of sanity like insatiable beasts. The tale was more than a legend. It was a chilling narrative that sent shivers down spines, a warning woven through every dark corner of history. The flicker of movement caught the eye. In the echoing silence of the midnight realm, a figure appeared, cloaked in darkness, with fiery eyes that blazed like molten lava. Was it betrayal that twisted Lucifer's fate, or was he merely the victim of celestial politics? The crumbling ruins of an ancient throne lingered behind him, a throne that had been begged and bartered for, only to turn to dust in his hands. The weight of past choices hung over him like a storm cloud, ready to unleash its fury. With each heartbeat, tension tightened its grip. Who could possibly understand the torment that now enveloped him? With bare hands, he clawed at his own heart, trying to extract the remnants of love that once filled him. Was there hope? Could redemption shine through the murk? Each thought was a knife that sliced through his raw wound, and the whispers echoed louder, urging him to succumb to the dark. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the tension reached its peak, an echoing laughter split the air, high-pitched and maniacal, reverberating from unseen corners. Shadows surged, forming into tangled shapes that seemed to mock him. Were these the souls he'd betrayed, or were they merely figments of his broken psyche? They moved closer, inching into his vision, cold and unyielding. The imbalance in the universe demanded answers, and those answers lay just beyond his grasp, intertwined with fate's cruel hand. Would he be forever banished, trapped in darkness, or was there still a glimmer of light yearning to break free? Questions loomed like vultures above a carcass, waiting for the right moment to pounce. And as the shadows thickened, a decision had to be made, a choice between a fading hope and surrender to despair. What would it be? The turbulent storm within him roared louder than the howling wind, a terrifying prelude to the darkness yet to be revealed. The shadows closed in tighter, wrapping around Lucifer like a shroud. Every nerve in his body tingled with an electric mix of fear and anger. The laughter grew louder, a cacophony that rattled the very bones of the night. It felt as if the very essence of the universe was mocking him, stripping away the last shreds of his divine dignity. He trembled as his heart raced, each beat drumming the rhythm of impending doom. "Is this what I've become?" he whispered, his voice barely penetrating the thickness of despair. Around him, the shapes of tormented souls twisted and turned, their faces contorted in anguish. Each one seemed to wear a mask of familiar doubts, lost dreams, and haunting regrets. They reached out, fingers grasping at the air, desperate for something that lay beyond their grasp. Was it vengeance? Was it recognition? Lucifer felt their pain resonate with his own. Each tortured wail was a dagger, plunging deeper into his already raw heart. It was a reminder of what he'd lost: love, trust, a place in the cosmos that had been, at one time, undeniably his. The memories crashed over him like waves, pulling him deeper into the abyss. Then came the flash, a glimpse of light through the thick veil of darkness. A memory of standing in heaven, radiant and proud, playing the lyre, the music flowing like honey from his fingertips. He could almost feel the warmth of the sun on his back and the applause of fellow angels ringing in his ears. But that memory quickly faded, overwhelmed by the shadows that crept like thieves in the night. "What have you done, Lucifer?" the voices hissed. Was it his own conscience, or had the shadows taken on a life of their own? The question hung in the air, heavy and accusing. Without warning, a figure stepped forward through the chaos. It was cloaked in silver mist, shifting and swirling like smoke. The fiery eyes glinted, fierce and penetrating. You can't run from the truth, Lucifer. Hope flickered within him like a dying flame. Could this shape be the answer to his despair? Or another tormentor wrapped in deceit? The knowledge that lurked within those eyes felt ancient, echoing with wisdom that could either heal or destroy. You think it's over? The voice was soft yet powerful, layered with a haunting melody. This is just the beginning. You have a choice to make. His chest tightened. Choice. The very concept seemed foreign now, tainted by the weight of his past decisions. What choice? He was destined to roam in the dark, trapped within the nightmare he'd created. And yet the silver figure beckoned him closer, the swirling mist dissipating to reveal a path illuminated by an ethereal glow. You can reclaim what was lost, or let it all slip away forever. The air crackled with tension as Lucifer's heart pounded in his chest. Would he dare take the step toward that flickering light? With every ounce of his being, he felt the pull of both despair and hope, struggling against each other in a furious dance. The pull was magnetic, and yet it terrified him. This might be the moment that determined his fate for eternity. As he stood at the brink, caught in the whirlwind of choices, the echoes of laughter faded, replaced by an ominous silence. Every soul around him held its breath. The question hung heavily in the air: would he embrace the light, or plunge deeper into the darkness? Lucifer took a deep breath, feeling the weight of 1,000 fallen stars on his shoulders. The moment hung poised. His choice could change everything. Would he step forward, risking everything, or fade into the shadows, forever lost? The silver figure's eyes locked onto his, filled with a promise of revelation but edged with a thread of the unknown. What lay ahead? Would the truth save him or doom him forever? The silence shattered like glass, sharp and unexpected. Lucifer instinctively flinched, as if he had been struck by an invisible force. The weight of the silver figure's words, heavy and profound, settled into his bones. What did it mean to choose? His mind raced, a chaotic blend of memories, regrets, and a flicker of hope. Suddenly, the whispers intensified around him. They morphed into a piercing chant, echoing the uncertainties that had plagued him for eons. Choose. Choose. Suddenly, Lucifer felt their desperation surge, a tidal wave of yearning that crashed against his resolve. These were not just souls trapped in despair, but a collective consciousness of mourning, each one crying out for salvation, or perhaps vengeance. In that instant, he realized the depth of his connection to them. They were extensions of his own choices, shadows of his failures. He had led them here, into this limbo of suffering. Enough! He roared, his voice resonating through the blackness, filled with a mix of rage and raw power. But the shadows only laughed, the sound curling around him like smoke, taunting, a reminder of his own helplessness. Your voice is strong, but it is not enough, Lucifer, the silver figure responded, undeterred. Strength is born from choice. Choose who you want to be, a conqueror or a victim of your own creation. The glimmer of light behind the figure pulsed, beckoning like a distant star. It offered an escape, a chance to refashion what he had unraveled. With a shuddering breath, he took a tentative step forward, feeling the ground ripple beneath his feet. Then the chanting shifted, turning into something darker, sinister. Fallen. Fallen. From grace, from purpose. The accused voices sunk into the pit of his stomach, turning his insides cold. It was a truth he could not escape, a scar he couldn't heal. But in that moment of conflict, clarity broke through. What if I choose both? He blurted out, anxious and desperate. What if I embrace the darkness, but still seek to rebuild? The silver figure's fiery eyes blazed with an intensity that made his heart skip. That is a dangerous path, one fraught with peril. The darkness will always tempt you. It knows your weaknesses. Lucifer's breath quickened. Temptation had been his first folly, yet now it seemed like a twisted ally. Could he harness it? Blend both sides? A cold laugh erupted from the encircling void, a sound so mocking, so familiar. You think you can play both sides? You, who fell for pride. You'll be consumed. The roars of the tormented souls built back into a crescendo of chaos, drowning out his thoughts. That he clenched his fists, determination unfurling within him. There was nothing left to lose and everything to gain. If I am to be a monster, then let me be a monster with purpose. Daringly, he started to stride toward the light, where the silver figure stood, awaiting his decision. The energy crackled around him, swirling like a maelstrom of fate. With each step, the shadows writhed, reaching, clawing at his feet, desperate to pull him back down. He could feel the weight of their grief, their anger, their unresolved longing. But he pressed on, fueled by a flame that hadn't yet extinguished within him. As he approached the edge of the light, a terrifying thought struck like lightning. What if the light proved to be just as corruptive as the dark? He halted mid-step, his heart racing. What am I really choosing? In that instant, he realized the silver figure was watching intently. This was the crux, the moment that could redefine the cosmos. Did he dare take the gamble? Would he break free from the shadows and embrace a terrifying new destiny, or turn back and leave his fate sealed in darkness? The silver mist surged, circling him like a living, breathing thing, as the world around him teetered on the edge of chaos. With the choices unraveling in his mind, one final scream echoed from the depths of the void. Make your choice, or be lost forever. And there it was, the light and the dark intertwined in a chaotic dance. Lucifer stood at the precipice, heart pounding, poised between his past and a frightening unknown. What would he become? Lucifer stared into the pulsing light, his heart hammering against his chest like a caged beast. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices clamoring for his decision. Choose. Choose, they chanted, each syllable striking him like a whip. There was power in that light, a lure that called to his deepest desires and the remnants of his lost purpose. He could feel the gravity of the moment. One step toward the light could mean liberation from his regret, or surrender to a new darkness. Could he risk it? As he teetered on the edge of fate, the silver figure stepped closer, its features sharpening in the radiant glow. This is not a mere test, Lucifer. This is your reckoning. Can you truly accept both the monster and the savior within you? Lucifer swallowed hard, his throat dry as sandpaper. The shadows flickered behind him, whispering sweet nothings of doubt, reminding him of his failures. They were his past, a gallery of horrors laid bare, and he had been their curator. Yet, the light glimmered with unfamiliar promise: a second chance. What happens if I choose? Lucifer asked, his voice strained, trembling on the edge of fear and excitement. The silver figure smiled, its eyes alight with fervor. Then you embrace both your essence and your consequences. You carve a path no one has walked before, a creation built from pain and passion. Pain and passion. The words echoed in him, stirring something long buried. Was it truly possible? Could he shape his own narrative from the wreckage made by his previous choices? The ground beneath him trembled, pulling at his resolve. The dark voices screamed louder now, drowning out his thoughts. You'll only repeat the curse. You'll endanger others. Choose the safety of the dark. Abandoning everything was simple. Rebuilding with purpose was daunting. Desperation clawed at him. Would he remain a prisoner of his past, or take a leap into the unknown? He gazed back into the shadows where the haunting memories lingered, faces twisted in sorrow, the betrayal of those who once loved him, and the harrowing realization of what he had lost. Taking a deep breath, he steadied himself. I want to be both, he declared firmly, the words echoing with conviction. A creature of the dark with a heart that seeks to mend what was broken. The moment his voice rang out, the shadows shuddered, and the light flared violently. It felt as if the whole universe paused, waiting for the consequences of his claim. Bursting forth from the depths of his being came a raw energy, mixing fury with determination, as if he was forging an entirely new identity in that instant. With that, the silver figure raised an ethereal hand. Tendrils of light reached out, brushing against his skin, sending shocks of electricity coursing through him. Then your choice is made. Before he could feel the full weight of it, the ground split apart. Panic surged as the earth trembled violently, fissures opening beneath him, threatening to swallow him whole. The intricate dance of darkness and light around him spiraled into chaos. Lucifer's heart raced as he was flung into the void, caught between the abyss and the blinding brilliance. He felt himself teetering on the brink, reality splintering around him. And then darkness that he plummeted into a relentless abyss, a tumble through time and space. Every ounce of his fear erupted. What had he unleashed upon the world? When he landed, it was with an explosive crash, a jarring force that echoed through the emptiness. The ground felt solid yet sinister, shadows pooling around him like spilled ink. Slowly, he pushed himself upright, blinking at the surrounding darkness, and then his breath caught in his throat. Outlines began to take shape, figures rising from the shadows, their faces eerily familiar. They bore the imprint of his past, transformed by betrayal and pain. "Welcome back, Lucifer," whispered a voice, dripping with malice. As he looked closer, recognition struck him. What is this?" The faces of those he had failed stared back at him, twisted into nightmarish versions of themselves, trapped in a torment he had once feared. "Your choice," they echoed in unison. As a sense of dread filled the air, he wondered if he had grossly underestimated the toll of his decisions. Had he only traded one prison for another? The shadows loomed closer, darkness swirling around him like a predator closing in on its prey. And before he could grasp the full weight of his decision, a chilling laugh echoed through the void. "Now, let us see what kind of monster you become." What had he awakened? What awaited him in this twisted reflection of his choices? The laughter faded into silence, leaving Lucifer trembling. He glanced at the figures surrounding him, their features shifting with memories of disappointment and pain. It felt like a nightmare crafted from his regrets, each face a stark reminder of what he had lost, of who he once was. "Forgive us," one of the figures suggested, its voice a ragged whisper. The eyes were familiar yet distorted, glimmering with tears unshed. "You owe us more than just an apology." Lucifer's throat tightened. "What do you want from me?" His voice barely broke the silence. The shadows closed in, and he could feel their weight pressing against him. "Redemption is earned, not given," they hissed, their presence suffocating. "You dare to seek both light and darkness? Prove it." With that, the ground beneath him shimmered and split open again, revealing a glowing chasm filled with swirling energy and invitation to a trial unlike any he had faced before. As fear coursed through him, he felt a primordial urge pulling him toward the vortex. Uncertainty gripped him. Had he summoned this chaos with his own choice? With a deep, shuddering breath, he stepped forward, allowing the energy to envelop him. In an instant, he was transported to a desolate landscape, a battlefield ravaged by conflict, echoes of his past decisions manifesting before him. The sky was a bruised purple, littered with flashes of lightning, illuminating silhouettes of warriors. He recognized them. Each was a fragment of decisions he'd made, choices that led to suffering and heartache. "Lucifer," a voice cried out, slicing through the ambient chaos. He turned to find a familiar face, a woman wielding a sword, her features etched with frustration. "You must understand this isn't just about you." "Isn't it?" He shot back, anger brewing within. "Every time I tried to help, it turned into disaster. I lost everything." "No," she said, her voice steady but torn. "You lost yourself. But it's not too late. Stand and fight. This is your path, your consequence." The ground shook. Lucifer felt the weight of their accusation. They were right. He had to confront not just his choices, but the person he had become. As warriors clashed in the distance, he felt an electricity surge through him. The desire to change burned within him, a flickering light against the encompassing darkness. He gripped the sword that appeared in his hand, uncomfortable yet familiar, and pointed it toward the chaos. "Enough," he bellowed, his voice echoing off the mountains. "I will grasp my fate, no more running." At the sound of his declaration, the cacophony around him shifted. The warriors paused and turned their heads, appearing more like specters caught between worlds. They stared, as if awaiting his next move. "Can you bear the truth that comes with power?" The silver figure from before materialized again, merging with the figures of his past. Their eyes reflected unyielding judgment. "Are you ready to face the monster within?" Lucifer's chest tightened. "I can't pretend it doesn't exist." "Then embrace it, and wield it," they urged. "With darkness comes the strength to illuminate the path forward. But first, you must face your greatest fear." His heart raced. What fear could haunt him that was greater than what he had fled? Suddenly, a piercing image erupted in his mind: loss. The faces of those he'd lost. Their gazes filled with disappointment, hurt, and his own guilt washed over him like a wave. He felt compelled to confront them, standing before him now, like ghosts demanding retribution. "What do you want me to do?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Prove you can shoulder your past." They pointed toward the battlefield, chaos returning with renewed fervor. "End this cycle of suffering, or let it consume you whole." As the shadows danced violently around him, facing the specters of his past felt like teetering on the edge of a precipice. With courage and purpose mingling in his chest, he raised his sword. "I will not let fear dictate my future," he shouted defiantly. The ground quaked as if the very earth responded to his proclamation. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from the sword, piercing through the darkness. What would follow in this terrifying clash of light and shadow? Would he emerge reborn, or be swallowed by the very monsters he'd summoned? Time hung in the balance, and every heartbeat pulsed with anticipation. The blast of light cracked through the chaos like thunder, carving a brief moment of clarity amidst the maelstrom. Lucifer felt the surge of energy flow through him, illuminating the faces of the fallen warriors, twisted with pain but yearning for resolution. Their expressions shifted, becoming less about anger and more about an aching hope. "Fight for us," one ghostly face implored, eyes glistening with an unearthly glow. "Remember your strength." He gripped the sword tighter, feeling its weight settle in his palm like an old friend. It was time to confront his past, time to shape his destiny without the chains of guilt. As the shadows recoiled from the brightness radiating from him, he took a step forward, heart racing. Ahead, the battlefield swirled with confusion and despair, thousands of ghosts trapped in a looping struggle. He saw the flashes of their lives he had touched, and not always for the better. But within the din, they began to quiet, their cries fading into whispers. "Your redemption isn't for them." Lucifer, the silver figure, spoke again, its presence looming like an ancient mountain. "It's for you. Your past must be faced head-on. Only then can you break this cycle." He forced himself to breathe, each inhalation igniting memories that clawed at his heart. The love lost, the lives shattered, regret tightened its grip around him. But in that darkness, he saw echoes of courage, the faint flicker of hope that had once burned so brightly within him. "I will not run from my fears," he shouted again, startling even himself. Determination surged within every fiber of his being. He focused on the fiercest regret, a moment seared into his soul, a choice that had led to unimaginable grief. The specter of that choice materialized before him, a monstrous collection of twisted features and broken promises. "Face me," it roared, and the earth quaked beneath its weight of sorrow. With grit and resolve, Lucifer stepped forward, sword raised high, light shimmering around him. "You do not control me any longer." As he swung the sword, a clash echoed through the expanse, the sound of trilling bells summoning strength and clarity. The glowing edge met the shadow, creating a shockwave that rippled through the battlefield. Light and darkness converged, swirling power adding to the energy that hummed in the air. The shadow screamed, a wail that reverberated deep within Lucifer's core, unraveling the mistakes that had haunted him. Sparks flew like fireflies around them, illuminating forgotten battles, a culmination of pain he had carried, now unsheathing into liberation. But just as the darkness began to retreat, panicked voices rose around him, a cacophony of despair. "You cannot destroy us. We are your shadows, your failures. We will never leave." For a moment, terror gripped him. The realization dawned: what if he could never truly escape his past? The sword wavered, and doubt clawed at the edges of his resolve. "Embrace it," the silver figure urged, a solid presence in the tumult. "Harness the darkness, and let it guide you. You become stronger in acceptance, not annihilation." With horror colliding with hope, understanding dawned upon him. The past was not just a weight. It was a tool, a foundation from which he could build. He could wield these shadows as brothers, not foes. Fueled by that revelation, he closed his eyes for a heartbeat, centering himself, then thrust forward the sword, not to destroy but to channel the shadows into light. The battlefield exploded in a kaleidoscope of colors, a blinding fusion of light intertwining with darkness, revealing glimpses of the lives he had touched, united for a moment in shared power. But amid that birth of new possibility, a chill crept through the air, accompanied by a sinister whisper. "This is only the beginning, Lucifer. The darkness is relentless and it hungers for its prince." As the light started to disperse, and the rumbles of the battlefield quieted, he felt an unsettling uncertainty settle over him like a shroud. Had he truly faced his past, or merely scratched the surface of what lay beneath? And as the shadows gathered at the edges, waiting to reclaim him, he realized this battle was far from over. With each pulse of hunger from the encroaching darkness, he took a deep breath, preparing for the next phase of his journey. What awaited him in the depths of his own heart? Would this fragile flame of courage be enough to withstand the coming storm? The light faded slowly, melding with the shadows, creating an unnerving tapestry of twilight. The silence that followed was suffocating, thick as fog, pressing against him like an unwelcome embrace. Lucifer stood at the center of the battlefield, throat dry, pulse racing, feeling the weight of disappointment emanating from the remnants of lost souls around him. "A mistake," whispered a chilling voice, laced with venom. It slithered through the air, and he turned sharply, the sword still raised, desperately banishing the darkness with each breath. "You think you've won? You are still the architect of your own ruin." He gritted his teeth, fists clenching around the hilt. He had tasted freedom, a flicker of redemption. How could it be so easily snatched away? Behind the echoes of that voice, he could sense the shadows coiling, ready to strike at his weakness. "Listen to them," the silver figure urged. "Feel their pain. They are you, and you are them. Accept it." Lucifer shook his head, a shiver racing down his spine. His heart thundered with an urgent impulse, the need to resist the inevitable pull of despair. He could see the ghosts again, faces morphing into the anguished visages of those he had wronged. Memories threatened to invade like a swarm, clamoring for his attention. "They linger because you've never truly faced what you've done," the sinister voice taunted, creeping closer. "You left them, abandoned your goodness for power. Why should they rest when you don't?" A certain fear gnawing in his gut, he stumbled backward, struggling to keep the sword steady. "I've changed," he shouted, voice echoing in the emptiness. "I'm fighting for you, for all of us." "Fighting?" The voice cackled. "You call this a fight? You're merely postponing the inevitable. The darkness will always return." Then came a sudden surge of energy, unyielding and fierce. The ground shook, blinding light igniting around him. The remnants of ghosts began to swell, spinning in a furious vortex. Faces twisted in agony, torn between hope and despair. They reached out, mouths agape in silent screams, begging for liberation. "Enough!" Lucifer roared, words firing from his tongue like bolts of lightning. He summoned the strength of the memories that surged within him, the warmth of laughter, the taste of beloved meals shared, the bittersweet embrace of first love. "Your pain is mine, and so is your power," he declared, slicing downward with his sword, igniting a wave of iridescent light that broke through the shadows, illuminating the battlefield with a fierce brilliance. But just as a flicker of triumph surged within him, the ground beneath him trembled, and a deeper darkness emerged. It rose like smoke, tendrils grasping toward him, a malevolent tide of despair. "You cannot bind what is meant to be free. You are not their savior. You are their jailer." He fell to his knees, overwhelmed. The sword wavered, slipping from his grip, clattering onto the parched earth. Faces around him fell silent, merging into a collective gaze, filled with an unspeakable sorrow. "Will you lose it all again?" The echoes of their whispers taunted. "Will you bury your own light for a fleeting illusion?" He could feel his courage wane, a wave of doubt crashing against his resolve. Was it all true? Would the shadows consume him completely? Suddenly, the silver figure broke through the chaos, shimmering like a beacon. "Embrace what you fear. Use it," it called, its voice piercing through his desolation. "The darkness is not your enemy. It is your greatest teacher." Just like that, a flicker of a familiar sensation ignited within him, a spark of understanding. He looked up, eyes burning against the encroaching shadows, and with every ounce of strength left in him, he reached out toward the darkness, grasping not with fear, but with fervent acceptance. "Bring it," he shouted, and as the shadows surged, he felt a warm pulse through the darkness, transforming it, reinventing it. It was a moment of terrifying beauty, a bridge between worlds. But as he began this reshaping, a horrifying revelation struck him like a thunderclap. It wasn't just his past he was confronting. There were depths to this darkness he had yet to uncover, secrets tangled within that beckoned with a sinister allure. What was hidden in the shadows? What truths would he unearth as he ventured deeper? Would he lose himself in the battle against what had once been his greatest triumph? The shadows twisted around Lucifer, a living entity determined to consume him whole. They whispered dark secrets, each one more seductive than the last. As he grasped tighter to the flicker of light within him, he could feel the weight of the past pressing down, the sins, the betrayals, the cries for justice that echoed in the ether. "Do you see now?" The voice dripped with sarcasm, curling around him like smoke. "You're nothing without your despair. Embrace it, and maybe, just maybe, you'll find your way back." Lucifer felt a cold sweat trickle down his back. The memories flooded in, an avalanche of remorse invading his mind. Faces twisted in pain, pleading for absolution. His heart ached, tightening like a vice. I can't give in, he murmured, shaking his head as if to dispel the demons lurking in his mind. But the shadows surged, forcing him to confront the reality he feared. Images of his past flared before him: lost loves, shattered dreams, and the haunting laughter of companions turned enemies. Each scene sliced into him, raw and jagged. You left them. You could have saved them. They screamed in a cacophony of grief. No, he bellowed, clenching his fists in defiance. I am more than my mistakes. I refuse to let you define me. Suddenly, as if responding to his roar, the very ground trembled beneath him. A pulse of energy erupted from deep within the shadows, charging the air with a crackling intensity. The silver figure loomed larger, shimmering with a blinding light that threatened to push back the encroaching darkness. Instead of running, fight through it. The figure urged, its voice unwavering. Let the fear flow through you. Channel it. Lucifer didn't hesitate. He let the shadows wrap around him, not as chains to bind, but as a shield to empower. As he breathed deeply, he envisioned the pain transforming, reshaping into something powerful. The darkness was filled with lessons, stories waiting to be told. He felt the pulse of every regret, every cry for help igniting a fire within. With each heartbeat, the light began to rise, swirling around him, intertwining with the shadows in a terrifying dance. As the shadows recoiled, revealing glimmers of brilliance, he shouted, I am no longer a prisoner of my past. I wield my darkness as strength, not shackles. But just as clarity blossomed, a terrifying roar erupted from the depths. From the heart of the shadowy vortex emerged a figure cloaked in black, the very embodiment of despair. Its eyes shone like coals, emanating malice. Do you think you can control what you fear? It sneered, pulling energy from the very ground, transforming the light into swirling darkness. The air thickened, a suffocating weight pressing against his chest. You are merely playing at defiance. The truth is a prison you built yourself. Lucifer gritted his teeth, heart hammering in his chest. This was the challenge he feared, confronting not just the darkness around him, but the shadow within. You don't own me, he spat, feeling the fierce rise of courage surge through him. But as he charged forward, preparing to strike, a jagged blade materialized from the shadows, thrusting toward him. Time slowed as he darted to the side, narrowly avoiding the lethal attack. Liquid fear splattered against the ground, sizzling upon impact. Keep running, the figure taunted, drawing closer. You'll tire out, and then you will embrace the darkness. It is inevitable. With every fiber of his being, Lucifer fought back the despair clawing at him. Each breath became a battle, each heartbeat a reminder that he was still alive, still fighting, still capable of love and redemption. But deeper truths lay buried in the shadows, calling to him with a voice laced in honeyed venom. What if the darkness was not just his past, but an uncharted territory he had yet to explore? As the figure loomed closer, tempting him with promises of power and understanding, Lucifer's resolve began to waver. Could he truly withstand this onslaught? Was he ready to confront what lay hidden at the heart of his darkest self? Just when he thought he understood the battle he faced, a larger question loomed. How far would he go to uncover the depths of his own soul? The shadows writhed, shifting with a life of their own, curling and undulating around Lucifer like serpents. Each movement sent pulses of darkness slithering toward him, threatening to snuff out the small flame of defiance he had ignited. The jagged figure before him laughed, a sound that echoed with the weight of eons. You still think you can resist, little light? It stepped closer, each footfall reverberating ominously. Lucifer could feel the cold tendrils of despair wrapping tighter, squeezing him like an embrace laced with poison. He turned his thoughts inward, searching for the flicker of light that still burned inside him. It was faint but persistent, a reminder of who he once was, the angel forged from the brightest star. I want to be your puppet, he shouted, defiance rising in his chest, raw and potent. But the figure only grinned a grin that promised nothing but suffering. You already are, it hissed. What is power if not a delusion? The agony you feel is part of its grip. Remember this. Every step you take toward understanding only leads deeper into the shadows. Those words clawed at his spirit. Was it true? Was he merely stumbling in a twisted game? The shadows danced in temptation, shadows that whispered deeply about long-forgotten secrets and long-buried truths. He could almost hear the siren call of dark desires, echoing in the recesses of his mind. Enough. With a surge of will, he propelled himself outward, feeling light pulse somewhere beneath the dark layers. He charged again, but this time he could almost feel the air shift, like anticipation filled the void between them. The shadow figure recoiled momentarily, and that flicker of hope spread a little wider. Strike with what burns inside you. The silver figure urged again, its voice rising above the chaos. Power lives in the light, harness it. Lucifer closed his eyes, channeling his energy to the flicker within. He envisioned the warmth spreading, illuminating the darkness in waves. The shadows tightened their grasp, trying to choke the light, yet he felt it rise like a phoenix from ashes. With a desperate roar, he thrust forward, unleashing the fire in a brilliant wave that pushed against the obsidian void. The darkness howled, distorting as the shadows fought against his growing brilliance. But the figure before him only laughed, a sharp sound that cut through the burgeoning brightness. Do you think light can vanquish the shadows? Every spark you unleash only ignites the void. But instead of succumbing to fear, a rush of clarity surged through him. He had power over what once owned him. It wasn't he just about resisting, but accepting that darkness. The realization struck him like cold steel. He could learn from it, mold it. The desperation transformed into determination. Then teach me, he challenged, a fierce glint of resolve deep in his eyes. If this is a game, let me learn the rules. For a moment, silence blanketed the chaos, a breath in the storm. The figure hesitated, the shadows swirling more erratically. Very well, but each lesson comes at a cost. Suddenly, the air crackled, vibrating with a palpable tension. A blinding light squeezed from every shadowy corner, illuminating the truth in haunting relief. Images flooded in, memories of lost friends, forgotten battlefields, the faces of love now turned to ash. That balance between light and dark stood before him in chaos, a kaleidoscope of emotions clawing their way to the surface. Every heartbeat thundered like a war drum. He felt the urge to retreat, but instead, he stood firm. I will not fall back into despair. Show me the way. With those words, the shadows twisted violently, a storm of darkness encircling him like a whirlpool. And in that chaos, a new question dared to spring forth. What had he truly lost to find this new path? Just as he gained traction, a flash shot through the shadows, a revelation, dark and glaring. The figure grinned wider as the storm slowed, presenting him with the unsettling truth. Do you really want to unlock the depths of darkness? Are you ready to pay the price? And with that, a new dread washed over him. What would it take to conquer the darkness within himself? The answer flitted just out of reach, tucked away among lies and truths mingling in the shadows. Lucifer felt the weight of the challenge pressing down like an anvil on his chest. The swirling chaos around him began to still, and he stared into the gleaming eyes of the shadow figure, a warped reflection of his own tortured soul. What price? He demanded, voice echoing through the ominous silence. The shadows pulsed, trembling with anticipation. Truth, the figure replied, its voice a silken whisper that caressed the edge of his sanity. The truth about the choices you've made, the pain you've caused. Only then can you reclaim power from your past. The shadows thrummed, waiting, hungry for his reaction. Lucifer's heart hammered loudly, a war drum against the encroaching despair. He had embraced the darkness before, but this felt different, more profound. What if I can't bear it? He asked, fear threatening to crack his resolve. He pictured the faces of the betrayed, a kaleidoscope of sorrow that had forged the chains around his heart. Then you will fade, lost in the void, the figure answered, its voice reverberating like a death knell. You'll become just another flicker of light extinguished by shadows. The truth sunk in like a dagger, sharp and unyielding. He could either cower in fear of what lay ahead or face it head-on. I'm tired of running, he said, voice steadier than he felt. Show me. With that declaration, he was met with a rush of shadows crashing forward, swirling around him like a violent storm. Lucifer gasped as they coursed through his skin, memories flooding his vision. The laughter of friends, the love that had turned bitter, the moment he fell from grace. Each image struck him like a thunderbolt, raw and painful. He stumbled backward, emotions threatening to drown him. "Stop! No more!" he cried, gritting his teeth against the flood of anguish. But the shadows only tightened their grip, pulling him deeper, forcing him to confront the ghosts lingering in his heart. He saw himself a radiant angel turned into something monstrous, haunting his own nightmares. Every moment you turned away from the truth forged your chains, the shadow figure taunted, the laughter echoing around him. Face it, or be consumed. Taking a deep breath, Lucifer steadied himself. "I won't allow my past to chain me," he shouted, the light within him flickering brighter in defiance. "I am more than my choices." The shadows recoiled slightly, as if surprised. "Then show me," the figure hissed, its voice dripping with sarcasm, yet edged with challenge. "Confront your past, embrace the darkness, and reshape your destiny." Gathering his strength, he took a step forward, fueled by a primal urge to claim what had belonged to him. The darkness roared, morphing into images of those he had wronged, flickering before him like a twisted slideshow. Faces twisted in pain, accusing him of every betrayal, each gaze a knife that cut deeper into his heart. "For every failure, you owe a debt," they called. "No," he bellowed, arms raised. "I won't vanish into the past any longer." In that moment, he understood pain and redemption were stitched together, inseparable. He could wield his shadows not as a burden, but as a shield. With renewed vigor, he confronted the darkest specter before him, embodying his fears. "You won't control me. I accept my past. I choose to face it." And with that decree, he swung his sword, not to destroy, but to fuse the darkness with the light. The air shivered as the sword connected, igniting a radiant explosion that shattered the darkness, revealing a brilliant tapestry woven with both pain and hope. The shadows twisted, their forms beginning to light up, taking on the hues of memory's grief transformed into understanding. "Enough of the torment," he declared, feeling the energy swell. "All my choices, every wound, let them be the foundation of my new self." The shadows gasped, shifting, their malevolence quivering under the weight of his acceptance. "Then rise, and embrace your duality," the silver figure intoned, glowing fiercely now. "Only through this will you find what you seek." Lucifer felt a surge of strength course through him, the shadows no longer an enemy, but a part of his complex existence. He gripped his sword, feeling the potent energy crackle around him, a reminder that power thrives not in the absence of darkness, but in mastering it. "I will wield both light and darkness," he proclaimed, feeling the warmth grow. "From the ashes of my choices, I will rise." And as the last echoes of doubt faded, he felt the warmth envelop him. The battlefield transformed, a new landscape blooming where despair once reigned. Surrounded by the remaining shadows, now tinged with color, he felt a sense of unity. Each figure he had wronged was now a part of his journey toward redemption. With a final surge, he stepped forward into the unknown, no longer a fallen angel, but a phoenix reborn. He held the sword aloft, absorbing the essence of his past, present, and future, ready to carve a new path into the narrative of existence that in that moment. He understood redemption was not a destination, but a continuous journey. He was not just the light or the darkness, but a symphony of both, echoing through the cosmos as a symbol of hope against despair. As the last remnants of shadows spiraled away, he turned toward the horizon, his heart open, his spirit aflame, ready to face whatever awaited him. This was not the end. It was only the beginning. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and share your love for our community. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this breathtaking conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this breathtaking finale.